The storm front boiled across the high ridge, as if the sky itself were being dragged forward by unseen claws, its writhing mass lit from within by flashes of pale green iron fire. On the plateau below, where the engineered grass grew in disciplined square plots, and every stalk stood precisely 2 handspans high, a lone figure braced against the gale. He was taller than most baseline humans, and built with the uncompromising angles common to the frontier-born. His coat, thick with fiber steel threading, snapped in the wind as he surveyed the horizon. His name was Aric Sonberin, and though some called him a hero and others called him a troublemaker, he understood himself simply as a defender of humanity's future. At that moment, the future looked like it was about to claw its way out of the storm. The outpost behind him was a cluster of low composite domes, each one shielded by adaptive panels that shimmered faintly under the electrical assault of the approaching tempest. The walls were pitted with scars testimony to recent battles against predators and raiders alike. Beyond those domes sprawled the continental frontier of the planet Altance, a world rich with resources yet claimed by 1,000 dangers. Humanity had seeded dozens of frontier colonies across the region, but Altance was special. Its soil harbored trace minerals essential to the graviton forges that armed humanity's capital fleets. Losing Altance would mean weakening the species' ability to defend itself, and that, Aric thought, must never happen. The storm carried something unnatural. He could feel it, a kind of quivering tension beneath the roar of wind, as if the atmosphere itself recoiled from an invisible intrusion. Reports had flooded in over the past week: missing patrols, sudden power drains, unusual electromagnetic flares over the northern pole. Frontier settlers speculated about saboteurs or rival colonies. The military garrison spoke in cautious, technical terms about environmental anomalies. But Aric had spent enough time hunting hostile forces along the edges of human space to recognize the scent of a lurking enemy. And this storm, it was no accident of climate. He activated the long-range scanner embedded in his wrist cuff. A lattice of soft blue hologlyphs sprang to life before dissolving into raw data. Noise levels spiked. Electromagnetic fields braided themselves into impossible patterns. Something large was moving within the storm, large enough to distort the upper atmosphere in ways no human craft could replicate. Aric's jaw tightened. He had hoped his suspicions were wrong. But now, the truth loomed across the dark horizon like a leviathan exhaling lightning. Behind him, the outpost's sealed entrance hissed open, and a second figure emerged, a woman of medium height with dark hair bound in a tight coil. Her steps were firm, deliberate, as though each was an argument she refused to lose. This was Mara Verrick, lead strategist of the Altance defense cohort, and one of the few people Aric trusted to question him without making him regret it. She did so immediately. "You're out here again," she said, raising her voice above the wind as she pushed the door closed and approached him. "And you're doing that thing with your eyes." Aric did not look away from the horizon. "What thing?" "The thing where you stare like you're about to leap off the ridge and wrestle something out of the sky. Every time you make that face, I know I'm not going to like what you tell me next." He finally turned toward her, his expression grim. "The storm isn't natural, something's inside it." Mara exhaled sharply, though not in disbelief. She trusted his instincts partly because they had saved her life twice, and partly because she had reviewed the same strange reports. "So we're past worrying about local predators or rogue miners." "Yes," Aric said. "This is bigger." "Alien bigger?" Aric nodded once. Mara dragged a hand down her face. "I was afraid you'd say that. The Council won't like it. They're already on edge about the resource quotas. The Council can sit on their polished chairs and fear economics. We don't have that luxury." Mara's eyes narrowed as she studied the storm. "If you're right, and I know you usually are, then we need confirmation before we announce anything. People panic easily out here. I'm working on confirmation." By staring at clouds, Aric allowed himself the briefest hint of a smile. "By waiting." As if summoned by his words, the storm convulsed. The wind dropped so suddenly that the quiet felt violent. A humming tremor passed through the ground, rippling across the plateau with such force that both humans staggered. The sky split not like lightning, but like a wound opening. A vast shape emerged from the storm front, its outline obscured by ribbons of charged vapor. It was not a ship in any human sense. Its hull, or what passed for one, shifted like living stone, its surface crawling with luminous veins that pulsed in eerie synchrony. It was the size of a small city, and as it descended, the air burned cold. Aric felt his throat tighten. "That's not one of ours, not from any human colony." Mara's voice lowered, reverent and terrified. "Then who built it?" Before Aric could answer, the ship released a sound not audible but felt, a resonance that drilled into bone and memory alike. A dozen colonists inside the outpost collapsed to their knees, clutching their heads. The ground quaked harder, and the ship's luminous veins intensified. Aric grabbed Mara's arm. "Inside." Now they sprinted toward the outpost as the alien vessel descended. The defensive shields crackled, then flickered, then momentarily failed as a wave of exotic radiation washed across them. Aric shoved Mara through the entrance and followed, slamming the reinforced door behind him as a tremor rattled the entire structure. The interior lights flickered. Several frontier engineers rushed toward Aric and Mara, their faces pale. "What was that?" demanded the chief engineer, a wiry man named Soren Callan, whose beard looked like it had been trimmed with a blunt laser cutter. "Our sensors overloaded. Shields nearly collapsed. Did we just get bombarded by whatever that thing is?" "Yes," Aric said, "and it's not going anywhere." "Prepare full defensive lockdown." "Lockdown?" Soren sputtered. "Do you want to trap us inside when that monster decides to crack the outpost open like a food capsule?" Mara raised her hand. "Enough. Listen to him. External conditions are only going to get worse. We need to reinforce our interior barriers and prepare our long-range communications array for emergency dispatch." A young technician stepped forward. "The array's already damaged, Commander Verrick. That wave knocked out the primary dish. We'll need time to repair it." "How long?" "Hours, maybe more." "We don't have hours," Aric muttered. The trembling beneath their feet subsided, but only slightly. Mara gestured for everyone to focus. "We have protocols for this. The Council will expect updates, and the fleet will need to know what we are facing. First priority is survival. Second is information." "Aric, what exactly did you see?" "A vessel," Aric said. "If it's even accurate to call it that. No visible propulsion, no detectable heat output. It moved like it was gliding through its own pocket dimension, and it was alive, not metaphorically. Its hull responded to atmospheric friction like muscle." Soren barked a nervous laugh. "Alive? You mean literally alive? Living ships? That's new to us," Aric said. "Not necessarily new to the galaxy." The room fell silent. Mara crossed her arms. "If this is a scouting vessel, more will follow. If this is an invasion spearhead, we're already behind." Aric activated the central hollow table. A projection of Altance materialized above it, along with new data streaming in from the battered sensor arrays. The alien ship hovered several kilometers from the outpost, suspended above the ground like a massive stone heart. Tendrils of energy-thin, whip-like currents extended from its underside and burrowed into the soil. "What is it doing?" Mara asked. "Harvesting something," Aric replied. "Or scanning or corrupting, but whatever it is, it won't stop there." "How do we fight something that size?" Soren whispered. Aric looked at him. "We don't, not directly. We learn its weaknesses and we strike where it's blind. Humanity has faced superior enemies before. We win by refusing to die." Mara nodded slowly. "So we observe first, gather data, and prepare for worst-case scenarios." A tremor rocked the outpost again. Emergency lights flared red. "That wasn't from the ship," Soren said, checking his wrist console. "That came from inside the soil." Aric's stomach tightened. "Mara, the tendrils, they're altering the ground beneath us. Why would they do that? To root themselves or to destabilize us?" The lights flickered harder. A deep, grinding noise reverberated from below as if the planet itself groaned. Structural integrity at risk, the automated defense system warned in its calm synthetic voice. Recommend immediate evacuation. Evacuate to where? Soren demanded. The storm will shred our transports. Aric slammed his palm onto the hollow table. Enough. There's an old mine tunnel network beneath the ridge. If the ship is trying to uproot us, those tunnels might offer stable footing. We can regroup there. Mara considered it. The mine shafts could shield us from the radiation pulses too, but we'll need to relocate essential equipment. Do it, Aric said. We move now. They organized quickly. Frontier settlers, engineers, and guards scrambled to relocate supplies into portable grav crates. Medical units loaded emergency kits. Communications specialists detached the partially damaged array core, hoping it might still work if reconnected underground. All the while the alien ship thrummed, its pulses rattling the outpost with increasing frequency. Aric led the first group toward the access ramp that descended into the old mine levels. The air grew colder as they entered the tunnel, illuminated only by portable light pylons. The deeper they went, the more the trembling above faded, replaced by a heavy, suffocating stillness. But that stillness did not last. When the last group descended, the tunnel walls shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling. Aric's instincts screamed. He shoved two settlers forward. Run! The tunnel behind them imploded as a surge of energy blasted downward through the ridge. Rocks collapsed, sealing the entrance and cutting off any return to the surface. Soren cursed. We are trapped. We're alive, Aric snapped. Focus on that. But even as he said it, he felt a chill crawl across his spine. They were alive, yes. But the alien ship had deliberately cut off their return path. It knew they were here. It was hunting them. Mara approached him, her face pale but resolute. Aric, we need a plan. We'll make one, he said. Based on what? Aric looked toward the dark tunnel stretching ahead, deeper into the mining network, and beyond that into uncertainty. Based on the fact that humanity survives, always. And whoever these visitors are, they're about to learn that. He lifted a lamp, adjusted the beam, and motioned for the group to follow. Far above them, muffled by meters of rock, the alien ship released a pulse so powerful it shook the entire ridge. And within that pulse, hidden deep, was something else. A signal, but not one meant for human ears. A reply, something else in the sky answered. And the storm began to build again. The air in the mine tunnels pressed against the colonists like a damp, unseen weight. Even with the portable light pylons casting long pale beams across the stone, the darkness ahead remained dense, as though swallowing any illumination that dared approach. Aric Sonberin walked at the front of the group with one hand resting on the grip of his plasma stave, not because he expected to fight in these cramped tunnels, but because he needed the weight of the weapon grounding him. Behind him, the survivors moved in uneasy clusters, pushing grav crates and carrying stripped-down components of the communications array. It was a fragile chain of hope assembled from spare parts and desperation. The tunnels had once thrummed with the sound of drilling machines and ore haulers as frontier miners carved precious mineral veins from the ridge. But that had been years ago. When richer deposits were discovered farther south, the company withdrew its heavy equipment and left behind an empty labyrinth. Now, for the first time in a generation, human footsteps echoed once again along the stone corridors. Aric found himself wondering whether the alien entity above recognized this place as an abandoned human warren or whether it perceived their refuge at all. The idea that it might be able to sense them even through layers of rock stirred a cold unease through him. Mara Verrick kept pace beside him, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. She was exhausted, but determination sharpened her focus. "This tunnel network is larger than I remember," she murmured. "That is because you were last down here during the resource inspections," Aric replied. "Those tours tend to focus on the upper levels. The lower shafts run for kilometers." "That could work in our favor," Mara said. "Distance, terrain, natural shielding. The deeper we go, the less the alien vessel can influence the bedrock around us. She paused, then added quietly, unless it is capable of something we do not yet understand. Aric's jaw tightened. Everything about it suggests capabilities far beyond ours. But if it could simply vaporize the ridge, it would have done so already. It seems to be probing rather than destroying. Which means it wants something, Mara said. Yes, and I do not think it is the minerals. A tremor ran through the tunnel walls like a distant heartbeat. Soren Kalin stumbled forward with a curse, steadying himself on one of the mobile crates. It is doing that again, he hissed. Whatever that ship is, it is still digging into the ground. I can feel the vibrations traveling down the old shafts. Mara turned to him. We are getting farther from the impact zone. Keep moving. Soren scowled. Move where? These tunnels go on forever. That is the point, Aric said. They were designed for extended mining operations. If we find a structurally secure cavern, we can establish a temporary base. He did not add that the deeper they went, the harder it would be to escape if the tunnels began collapsing. There were already too many fears whispering through the group. He could not give voice to another. They continued down the sloping passage. The ceiling dripped condensation in irregular beats, each drop echoing faintly. Aric's mind instinctively traced the path of every sound, scanning for movement. The alien vessel had unleashed one visible threat, but that did not mean there were no others. If the ship was alive, as he suspected, it might deploy smaller symbiotic constructs. For all they knew, something could already be crawling through the dark spaces of the ridge. Eventually, the tunnel widened into a broader chamber where abandoned machinery lay in crumpled heaps. Rusted ore skimmers leaned against the walls. A pair of decommissioned power cells sat half-buried under debris. Aric raised a hand for the group to halt, and the colonists spread out cautiously. Mara approached an old drilling console, brushing dust from its control surface. If we can restore minimal power to one of these hubs, the communications core might interface with it. Even partial data uplink would help us signal the fleet. Soren shook his head. The wiring is decades old. We would need new circuits, stable voltage regulation, and half a dozen replacement joints. And that is assuming the structural bracing is intact. It is a starting point, Mara insisted. We cannot wait until the alien ship decides to collapse the entire ridge. Aric stepped toward a jagged tear in the stone wall. It was not a natural fracture. It was too clean, cut as though by an energy beam. When he ran his fingers along its surface, he felt a faint tingle. Something was here, he said quietly. Mara joined him, studying the unnatural cut. Not human, too precise. Aric nodded. This is recent, hours old at most. Soren swallowed hard. Are you saying something besides us was down here? Aric did not answer. He did not have to. The silence pressing around them served as its own confirmation. One of the younger colonists, a tall, freckled man named Jace Venril, approached nervously. Should we keep going deeper? I mean, if something else is in the tunnels, maybe going further down is a bad idea. It is a risk, Aric said, but staying close to the surface is a greater one. The alien vessel is altering the ground. If it destabilizes the upper shafts, we will be crushed. So our choice is between being crushed or being stalked by something in the dark, Jace muttered. Your choice, Aric said evenly, is to focus on surviving. Fear can come later. Mara placed a hand on Jace's shoulder. We will move as a unit. No one wanders off. If anything starts hunting in the tunnels, it will find that humans bite back. There was strength in her voice, enough to steady the frightened group. Aric felt a flicker of gratitude for her presence. When panic threatened to spread, she shut it down with force and clarity. They set off again, leaving the rusted machinery behind. The tunnel bent in a slow arc, descending into a deeper, older part of the mine. Here the air grew colder, and a faint metallic scent drifted up from the stone. Their lights reflected off flecks of mineral embedded in the walls, creating the illusion of stars trapped in rock. Not long afterward, the sound began. At first Aric thought it was just another vibration from the alien vessel above. but this sound did not come from above. It drifted through the tunnel ahead of them, faint but distinct, an alternating rhythm of clicks and low, resonant pulses. The colonists froze, their breaths quickening. "What is that?" whispered Soren. Aric motioned for silence and listened. The sound shifted, rising in pitch. It moved irregularly, as though whatever produced it was testing the acoustics of the environment. Mara whispered, "It sounds like some kind of echolocation." Aric nodded slowly, "Which means something is mapping the tunnels." Jace stumbled backward. "Then we should turn around, we should go back." "There is nothing to go back to," Aric reminded him sharply. "The entrance caved in. Our only direction is forward." Another series of clicks echoed from deeper within the dark. Aric adjusted his plasma stave. "Stay close," he murmured, "and do not shine lights directly at anything you cannot identify." The tunnel widened again into a large vertical shaft where a multi-level platform had once supported ore lifts. Now the metal framework hung twisted and broken, as though torn apart by unseen claws. The sound grew louder, bouncing between the stone walls. Aric moved slowly into the cavern. The colonists formed a tight cluster behind him. Mara stayed at his side, her pulse rifle raised. Something flickered in the dark above them. Aric did not see it so much as sense it, an abrupt movement in the shadows at the top of the shaft, where old scaffolding was barely visible. A pale shimmer drifted across the metal before vanishing. Aric aimed his weapon. "Show yourself," he muttered. Silence. Then the clicking resumed, this time closer. Aric stepped forward, but Mara caught his arm. "Wait." A ripple traveled across the upper scaffolding. The lights reflected off something glossy, no, not glossy, wet. As the colonists squinted upward, the shape pulled away from the metal. It descended with uncanny speed, clinging to the wall like an insect, its long limbs gripping the stone with fluid precision. When it came into view, several colonists gasped. The creature was roughly the size of a large human, but far thinner, with limbs that bent at angles no human joints allowed. Its skin glistened like molten obsidian, yet when the light struck it, faint patterns rippled beneath its surface, patterns reminiscent of the glowing veins on the alien vessel. Its head elongated into a smooth, curved crest, and where eyes should be, there were only two recessed pits that shimmered with faint inner light. It was a living fragment of the ship above. The creature paused on the wall, its body clinging like an enormous predatory lizard. It chirred, a sharp staccato of clicks that vibrated the air. The sound seemed to resonate with the tunnels themselves. Then it leapt. Aric lunged forward, swinging the plasma stave in an arc. The creature collided with it midair, and the resulting flash of energy lit the cavern. The blow sent the creature tumbling back into the darkness. A shriek echoed down the shaft, high and metallic. "Move," Aric barked. "We need to get out of this chamber." The colonists scrambled across the unstable metal platforms, pushing toward another tunnel exit on the far side. Mara fired a burst toward the ceiling, forcing the creature to retreat behind the scaffolding once more. Soren shouted, "There is another path this way." Aric herded the group toward the new passage as the creature reappeared, scrambling along the ceiling with impossible speed. Its limbs extended, claws digging deeper into the stone. It was watching them but not attacking. Not yet. "It is guiding us," Mara said, breathless as she aimed her rifle. "Why is it guiding us?" Aric felt a chill spread through him. "Because it wants us somewhere." He pushed everyone into the narrow passage and sealed a rusted hatch behind them. The metal vibrated as the creature scraped its claws along the other side, but it did not attempt to break through. Instead, it clicked again, 3 slow pulses followed by a long, low drone. Then it withdrew. For a long moment, no one spoke. The colonists huddled in the cramped passage, trembling from adrenaline and terror. Finally, Soren whispered, "What was that thing?" "A scout," Aric said. "Or a gatherer," Jace swallowed. "Gatherer for what?" Aric did not answer immediately. He examined the hatch, ensuring the seal was intact. Only then did he speak. "For us." Mara exhaled sharply. "Then we cannot stay here. Whatever that creature is working for, it has already marked us." Aric nodded. "We keep moving." They followed the new tunnel, which sloped downward into deeper mining levels. The air grew warmer, suggesting geothermal pockets nearby. Crystals jutted from the walls, glowing faintly with natural luminescence. The strange beauty of the place did little to ease the tension gripping the group. After nearly an hour of careful progress, the tunnel opened into a subterranean cavern unlike anything Aric had seen before. Bioluminescent mineral formations coated the ceiling like frozen lightning, casting soft blue light across a vast chamber. A shallow underground lake stretched across the center, its still water reflecting the crystal glow. An old mining platform sat at the far end, partially submerged but still intact. "This is perfect," Mara said, relief softening her voice. "A natural shielding chamber. The rock density around us will block most of the alien vessel's interference." Soren nodded, already unloading equipment. "We can set up a provisional power grid on the platform. The communications core should have better stability down here." Aric surveyed the chamber. "We will secure the entrances. Jace, Lurine, you two stay near the tunnel we came through. Watch for movement. No one engages anything alone. If anything appears, alert us immediately." Jace stiffened. "Understood." The colonists set to work. Grav crates hummed as they were opened. Tools clattered. Power cells were arranged around the mining platform. Mara organized the work teams with sharp efficiency, while Soren and his technicians assembled a makeshift command console. Aric remained on guard, scanning the shadows and listening for any trace of the clicking pulses. For a time, silence held. Then the outpost's salvaged communications core activated with a low hum. Hologlyphs flickered to life, each one unstable but decipherable. The colonists held their breath as Soren adjusted the controls. Mara leaned over his shoulder. "Can you get a signal out?" "Possibly. The lower frequencies are still blocked, but I might be able to punch a narrowband burst through the interference." Aric watched the glyph patterns shift. "Do it." Soren took a breath and entered the command sequence. The core emitted a sharp pulse that reverberated through the chamber. A moment later, the console flickered. Then lights across the cavern dimmed. The lake rippled, though no wind stirred the air. Mara frowned. "What caused that?" Aric's instincts surged. He stepped toward the water, raising his weapon. Beneath the lake's still surface, a faint glow moved. "Back away," Aric ordered. The glow intensified. Shapes drifted up from the depths, 3 of them, rising like pale phantoms. As the light grew brighter, details sharpened. They were not creatures, they were devices. Spherical constructs of living metal, their surfaces adorned with the same pulsating veins as the creature in the tunnels and the ship above. The constructs floated upward until they hovered inches above the water, moving in a slow orbit around one another. Soren's voice trembled. "Those were in the lake the entire time." Mara grabbed her rifle. "Aric, they are scanning us." The constructs aligned, facing the colonists in eerie unison. 3 beams of pale blue light extended from their surfaces, mapping the cavern, analyzing the equipment, cataloging every motion. Aric stepped forward, positioning himself between the constructs and the colonists. "Do not fire unless they attack. We do not know their purpose." But the constructs were not waiting for inquiry or negotiation. Their beams converged on the communications core. The console sparked violently. Light erupted across its surface. Data streamed in uncontrolled bursts, glyphs flashing like frantic heartbeats. The core screamed with the sound of overloading circuits. "Shut it down," Mara shouted. "I am trying," Soren yelled, frantically slapping controls. The constructs pulsed with sudden intensity. Aric lunged forward and slammed his stave into the platform, using its energy output to create a static barrier. The construct's beams struck it and ricocheted, splashing across the cavern walls in arcs of ionized light. Soren ripped the primary cable free. The core shut down with a dying whine. The constructs froze midair, their lights dimmed. Then, as one, they turned toward the tunnel from which the colonists had entered. The clicking sound began again. Mara swore, "More of them are coming." Jace's horrified scream echoed from the tunnel entrance. "It is here, the wall climber, it brought others." Aric raised his weapon. "Everyone," he commanded, voice ringing through the cavern, "prepare for assault positions." But before anyone could move, the ground shuddered. A deep rumble rolled through the earth, shaking the cavern walls. Crystals rang like chimes. The lake churned as if something massive stirred far below. Mara steadied herself. "What is happening now?" Aric's gaze lifted toward the cavern's ceiling. A pulse of green light radiated downward, penetrating rock, water, and air alike. It was the same hue as the veins on the alien ship. "It has found us," Aric said. "Through layers of solid stone," Soren stammered. "Through everything," Aric replied. The cavern trembled again, harder. Cracks spidered across the ceiling. Dust rained down. The constructs drifted upward. They were not retreating. They were waiting. Aric felt it in his bones. Whatever the alien vessel sought beneath the ridge, whatever drove it to send creatures and constructs into the tunnels, the moment of revelation was coming. Mara looked at him, her expression grim but unwavering. "Options?" Aric tightened his grip on the plasma stave. "We stand, we fight. And we prove that humanity does not yield, not in the void, not in the dark, not to anything that believes we are prey." Above them, something enormous shifted deep within the ridge. The ceiling groaned, and the invasion beneath the earth began. The cavern shook with a deep resonance that seemed to pulse from the very bedrock itself. Aric Sonberin planted his feet firmly on the uneven stone floor, gripping the plasma stave until his knuckles whitened. The bioluminescent crystals scattered their cold light across the water, creating fragmented reflections that made it difficult to distinguish reality from illusion. Behind him, Mara Verrick's rifle stayed trained on the shadows, her eyes sharp, her breath steady despite the palpable tension that rippled through the colonists. They had organized themselves into defensive positions along the cavern's edges, forming a loose semicircle around the makeshift platform and the shallow lake. The floating constructs hovered silently over the water, their pale veins throbbing in patterns that conveyed a rhythm Aric could not yet interpret, but he felt its purpose: observation and control. The deep rumble intensified. The water in the underground lake roiled violently as though some immense creature stirred beneath its surface. Jace Venril, still trembling from the earlier encounter with the wall-climbing entity, clutched the edge of the platform, his eyes wide with horror. "It's in there," he whispered, voice barely audible above the cavern's groaning. "Something massive is in the water." Aric turned his gaze downward, squinting into the opaque depths. He could not make out distinct shapes, but the distortion of the water's surface suggested movement far too coordinated to be random. Every instinct in his body screamed that this was not a natural phenomenon, that the alien vessel above had dispatched a new element to enforce its will underground. Mara placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "Whatever it is, we control the perimeter. We have gravity crates, reinforced platforms, and the highest walls in this chamber. It may be massive, but it cannot reach us immediately, not unless we let it." Her confidence steadied the colonists. Even Soren Kalin, whose hands shook as he adjusted the salvaged communications cores components, drew in a deep breath and began to assist with stabilizing the platform's energy network. Aric acknowledged her logic, but remained wary. He had faced overwhelming threats before, and he had learned that confidence alone did not defeat entities capable of bending the laws of physics to their advantage. A high-pitched screech cut through the chamber, echoing against the stone with such intensity that several colonists instinctively covered their ears. The constructs above the water pulsed, responding to the sound, and 3 new forms emerged from the lake. Unlike the previous spherical devices, these had a humanoid silhouette, elongated and sinuous, yet unmistakably alien. Their limbs ended in sharp, segmented points that glinted faintly in the bioluminescent light. Their movements were fluid, calculated, as if their musculature were built for rapid strikes and silent traversal through any terrain. They paused at the water's edge, surveying the human group with a precision that sent shivers down Aric's spine. Even from a distance, He could feel the intelligence behind their motions, the deliberate assessment of friend, foe, and obstacle. "Stand your ground," Aric commanded, raising his stave in a protective stance. "Do not let them force panic." His voice carried across the chamber, resonating against the walls in a way that lent authority to his order. The colonists steadied themselves, forming tighter defensive clusters. Mara took the lead at one edge, directing two younger technicians to prepare improvised barricades from broken scaffolding. The lake's surface glimmered with reflected light as the alien forms advanced, their movements synchronized like predators hunting in a coordinated pack. Each step they took seemed to create a subtle distortion in the air, as though the molecules themselves were bending around their bodies. One of the humanoid constructs extended a limb toward the water, and the lake responded as though in obedience. From the depths, a shadowy mass rose, massive and angular, its edges glowing faintly with the same pulsating veins as the vessel above. The water boiled and hissed around it, sending waves toward the platform. Aric leapt forward, planting the stave into the reinforced edge of the platform to generate a localized energy shield. Sparks arced from the contact point, casting eerie shadows across the chamber walls. The waves from the lake collided with the energy barrier, causing a violent cascade of water over the platform. Colonists screamed and scrambled for footing, but the shield held, and no one was swept into the churning depths. Mara shouted over the din, "We cannot hold them with force alone. We need a distraction." Aric scanned the chamber rapidly. The lake offered few opportunities, but the crystal formations along the ceiling suggested a potential advantage. If they could redirect one of the constructs' attention toward a large cluster of luminescent crystals and then destabilize it, they might create temporary chaos, buying them time. He pointed toward the cluster. "Mara, the crystals, make it fall." She nodded, understanding immediately, and signaled two colonists to set the grav crates under the crystal overhang. They coordinated the placement with precision, as though they had practiced this scenario despite having only moments to prepare. Meanwhile, the humanoid forms circled closer to the platform, their glowing veins pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost communicative. One let out a low, resonant hum, not audible to the human ear, but perceptible as a vibration through the stone floor. The effect was immediate. Several colonists stumbled, disoriented by the deep resonance. Aric steadied himself against the stave and called out, "Brace yourselves, hold the line." He slammed his foot against the platform, generating a localized shockwave that disrupted the humanoid form's balance momentarily. Mara seized the opening and activated the controlled detonation of the grav crates beneath the crystal cluster. The ceiling trembled, and shards of glowing mineral crashed into the lake and the chamber walls, sending a blinding spray of light and debris toward the advancing aliens. The effect was immediate. Two of the humanoid constructs recoiled, their movements disrupted, while the largest of the shadowy aquatic mass submerged rapidly, disappearing beneath the boiling surface. The third humanoid form pivoted with terrifying speed, but Aric was already in motion, pushing the colonists back to safer positions. The chamber shook violently from the impact, and dust and mineral fragments rained down. When the disturbance settled, the humanoid constructs were disoriented, giving the humans a momentary advantage. Aric took the opportunity to advance toward the constructs with Mara beside him. "Focus fire on the glowing veins," he shouted. "Target the pulsating lines, they are vulnerable." Using plasma staves and improvised energy blasters from the salvaged equipment, the colonists unleashed a volley of precise energy bursts. The constructs shrieked in response, the light within their veins flickering under the concentrated attack. For the first time, the aliens seemed visibly affected by human tactics, their coordinated movements slowing as they adapted to the sudden intensity of assault. Soren Callan, regaining composure, accessed the communications console. "I am receiving weak signals from the surface. The alien vessel is partially disrupted. I can transmit a distress beacon to the fleet, but it will take time to stabilize. Mara moved swiftly to support him, directing energy to the core, while Aric continued to confront the nearest humanoid construct. Each pulse of his stave cut through the alien's defenses, striking directly at the glowing veins. The construct faltered, staggering backward, but still maintained an air of calculated menace, adapting to every human maneuver. The largest aquatic mass beneath the lake shifted violently, and the water erupted in a column of vapor and energy. Three new constructs emerged simultaneously, humanoid in shape but far larger, seemingly adapted to the aquatic environment. They advanced with deliberate synchronization, their movements faster and more precise than anything previously encountered. Aric's stomach sank. The initial wave of constructs had been probes. This second emergence signaled escalation, proof that the alien vessel was adapting and responding in real time to human resistance. Yet he knew panic would not serve them here. Survival depended on focus and coordination. He signaled to Mara and Soren. "We need a controlled retreat to higher platforms. Lead the colonists upward." With careful coordination, they began ascending the scaffolding that extended from the submerged mining platforms. Each step was calculated to maintain defensive positions while ensuring the constructs below could not reach them immediately. Sparks erupted from energy blasts hitting metal supports, and the cavern shook with every pulse of the alien constructs. Dust rained from the ceiling, and fragments of luminescent crystals broke loose, but the humans pressed forward, utilizing both cover and height to gain tactical advantage. The aquatic constructs surged upward with alarming speed, forcing the humans to divert attention to both the aerial and submerged threats. One of the larger humanoid constructs, previously disoriented, recalibrated, and launched itself toward Aric with a precision leap. He raised the plasma stave, absorbing the impact with the energy barrier it generated, and redirected the force into the platform, causing the creature to stumble and hit the cavern wall. Its shriek resonated through the chamber, a mixture of pain and mechanical adaptation. Mara fired a concentrated energy blast at the construct, striking its pulsating veins and causing it to convulse before retreating temporarily. The colonists followed in coordinated volleys, their weapons striking with precise timing under Aric's leadership. Soren finally stabilized the communications core. "Beacon is live," he shouted over the din. "Fleet will respond, but it will take at least 30 minutes for reinforcements to enter orbit. We have time barely." Mara's eyes flicked toward him, expression grim but determined. "Time is all we need," she said. "We survive until then." The constructs regrouped, their movements more coordinated than before. They approached in a formation that suggested strategic intelligence, no longer merely attacking at random. Aric analyzed their approach patterns and whispered to Mara, "They are learning from us. Every action we take informs their next move. We must stay unpredictable, constantly shifting tactics." Mara nodded. "We need to divide them, draw some toward the far side of the cavern while others face the lake. They cannot overwhelm us if we split them strategically." Aric motioned for a small team, including Jace and 2 colonists, to set up diversionary energy charges along the opposite platform edge. As they placed the charges, the constructs divided, some pursuing the false targets while others confronted the humans more directly. The plan worked with limited success. The creatures hesitated as they assessed the new variables, granting the colonists precious moments to adjust positions and recharge weapons. Aric and Mara coordinated a concentrated defense, utilizing both vertical terrain and improvised barricades to maximize the chamber's protective features. The constructs lunged and struck repeatedly, but human ingenuity and adaptability allowed them to respond effectively. Sparks and energy arcs illuminated the cavern in a chaotic dance of light and shadow. The aquatic mass in the lake surged again, attempting to disrupt the human positions, But Aric had anticipated the maneuver, deploying energy stasis fields from the grav crates to contain the immediate threat. Mara reinforced the containment with well-placed blaster shots, sending the water column erupting in harmless spray. Minutes passed, but to the humans, it felt like hours. Each pulse, each movement from the constructs tested their endurance. Sweat-streaked faces and trembling hands threatened to break their rhythm, but Aric's calm authority and precise instructions maintained order. Soren monitored the communications core, ensuring the beacon remained stable, sending fragmented but vital data to orbit. He whispered, almost to himself, "The fleet knows. They will come." They must. The constructs paused. Something about the humans' resolve had caused hesitation. Their pulses slowed, their movements calculated with greater caution. Aric sensed an opportunity. "We hit them now, all at once. Focus fire on the veins and the aquatic mass." Mara's voice amplified the order, and the colonists unleashed a synchronized assault, energy beams striking in unison, disorienting the alien constructs. The water in the lake churned violently, reflecting bursts of pale blue light across the cavern walls, and the creatures writhed as the concentrated fire forced them into temporary retreat. Aric exhaled sharply, gripping his plasma stave. The chamber shook again, but the immediate threat had been contained. The colonists looked to him, wide-eyed but still functional, a fragile mixture of fear and triumph in their expressions. Mara approached, sweat streaked across her brow, her rifle still raised. "We bought time," she said, "but this is far from over. They are learning. Every moment we survive, they adapt. The fleet will arrive, but until then, we endure." Aric nodded, gazing over the cavern. The constructs hovered at the water's edge, assessing, waiting. The rhythmic pulses of their veins suggested that the alien vessel above had not yet fully engaged. The humans were alive, yes, but the battle was only beginning. He realized that survival depended not on brute strength alone, but on ingenuity, adaptability, and an unyielding refusal to submit. "Prepare defenses," Aric commanded. "Reinforce barricades, stabilize platforms, and position watch teams. We are the guardians of this ridge, and nothing living or artificial will take it without paying the cost in full." Above them, somewhere beyond the thick layers of stone, the alien vessel pulsed once more, a silent testament to its patient intelligence. The humans below did not know its full capabilities, but they knew one truth with absolute certainty: they would not flee, they would not surrender, they would fight. And whatever awaited them, the ridge would not yield. The subterranean cavern settled into an uneasy stillness after the initial confrontation, though Aric Sonberin knew better than to believe it was safe. Every pulse of the alien constructs, every faint vibration in the stone beneath their feet, reminded him that their reprieve was temporary. The colonists busied themselves with shoring up barricades and stabilizing platforms, but exhaustion was evident in every gesture, in every tremor of their hands. Mara Verrick moved among them like a conductor orchestrating an impossible symphony, her eyes sharp for any misstep or lapse in focus. Soren Kalin worked feverishly at the communications core, his face pale and smeared with dust, fingers moving with the precision of someone balancing on the edge of catastrophe. The shallow lake at the cavern's center remained unnervingly still, but Aric sensed the latent potential for destruction lurking beneath its calm surface. He did not need to see the movements beneath the water to know that the alien presence had not diminished. They were waiting, observing, calculating. The first tactical decision was clear: they could not remain static. The cavern offered temporary shelter, but it was also a trap. The alien constructs above and below had established a pattern of reconnaissance and assault, testing human reactions while mapping the chamber. Aric gathered the leaders of the colonist group in a huddle atop one of the higher platforms. "We need to establish layered defenses and mobile response units," he said quietly, his voice carrying authority. "This is not just about surviving the current threat. We must anticipate its next moves and act before it strikes. Every inch of this cavern is a potential battlefield. Learn it, control it, dominate it. Mara nodded, her gaze shifting to the lake and the still constructs hovering above it. We can use their own caution against them. If we create multiple points of engagement, they will have to divide attention and resources. That buys us time, and time is everything. She turned to Soren. How soon can we re-establish a limited communications uplink? Soren glanced at the jury-rigged core, flicking switches and monitoring fluctuating glyphs. I can stabilize a narrowband transmission in less than an hour, he said, but it will be weak. Just enough to send a status report and coordinates to the fleet. We have to maintain the beacon continuously, or the alien vessel may detect intermittent signals and respond more aggressively. Aric surveyed the cavern, taking mental note of every feature: the jagged rock formations, the natural bridges over the lake, the remnants of mining scaffolding, and the submerged platforms that could provide elevation and vantage points. We divide into 3 units, he said. Unit 1 maintains the perimeter and watches the water. Unit 2 establishes mobile patrols along the platform edges and overhead scaffolding. Unit 3 stays with the communications core and the emergency equipment. Everyone must have a secondary position. No one fights without backup. The colonists nodded, absorbing the instructions with a mixture of fear and determination. Jace Venril, still pale from the earlier encounter, muttered, "And if they adapt faster than we can respond?" Aric fixed him with a steady gaze. "Then we adapt faster. That is the only option. Humanity does not yield. We adjust, we endure, and we fight back." The first patrols moved cautiously along the scaffolding and upper platforms, their footsteps echoing softly in the cavern. Aric stayed close to the shallow lake, keeping a vigilant eye on the still water. Every shadow seemed to shift unnaturally, and the faint pulsation of the constructs above mirrored the rhythm of the subterranean environment. Mara joined him, her rifle poised. "They are learning," she said quietly. "Every time we counter their move, they adjust. It is almost deliberate." Aric nodded. "That is the danger. They are not mindless drones. They are extensions of the alien vessel's intelligence. Every reaction is data. Every countermeasure teaches them what we are capable of." Soren's voice crackled through the improvised intercom. "I have established a continuous signal. The fleet is receiving our coordinates. They will respond within the window, but it is narrow. If the vessel detects us and reacts before reinforcements arrive, we may be overwhelmed." Mara adjusted her rifle, scanning the cavern ceiling. "Then we must hold the line until then. No exceptions." Aric's gaze returned to the water, where ripples betrayed the presence of the larger aquatic mass lurking beneath the surface. The creature moved with deliberate slowness, each motion calculated to gauge human readiness. Its glowing veins pulsed faintly, synchronized with the constructs hovering above, suggesting a networked intelligence. It was not merely attacking, they were observing, probing, learning the limits of human endurance. Hours passed with careful monitoring and minor skirmishes. The humanoid constructs above would sometimes descend from the ceiling, testing barricades, only to retreat when confronted by concentrated energy fire. The aquatic mass beneath the lake would rise and stir the water, sending waves toward the platforms, testing stability and reaction speed. Each encounter refined Aric's understanding of their behavior. He began to notice patterns. The constructs tended to move in small, coordinated groups. The aquatic mass responded more aggressively when humans concentrated fire on multiple targets simultaneously. And the vessel above manipulated energy patterns in the cavern, subtly altering gravity fields and electromagnetic interference to destabilize human equipment. Aric convened another strategic meeting with Mara and Soren atop the reinforced platform. "We have 3 options," he said, tracing finger paths along a holographic projection of the cavern. "Option 1, we remain defensive until the fleet arrives. It minimizes risk, but allows the constructs to gather data and adapt fully to our tactics. Option 2, we attempt a controlled assault, targeting the constructs, veins, and the aquatic mass to weaken them before reinforcements arrive. High risk, high potential payoff. Option 3, we create a diversion, drawing the constructs into a confined section of the cavern and using environmental features, collapsing crystal formations, controlled water flows to trap or delay them. Mara leaned in, studying the projection. The diversion seems viable, she said. It forces them to act in predictable ways, and we can manipulate the terrain to our advantage. Assault is tempting, but it risks rapid adaptation and potential casualties. Soren adjusted a control on the communications core. I can coordinate with the fleet to provide supplemental orbital energy pulses if we choose the diversion. It might give us enough leverage to stabilize the cavern. Aric nodded. Then we proceed with the diversion. We set traps, channel their movement, and maintain defensive positions around the lake and platforms. The moment we detect any attempt to breach containment, we implement the contingency orbital energy pulse from the fleet. Mara tapped the projection. We will need volunteers for the forward positions near the crystal formations. It will be dangerous, but necessary to guide them properly. Several colonists, including Jace and 2 of the engineers, immediately volunteered, steeling themselves for the risk. Aric felt a surge of pride. Despite exhaustion and fear, the humans demonstrated the resolve that defined their species. Preparations began. Grav crates were strategically placed to create narrow corridors and choke points. Shards of luminescent crystal were positioned to collapse when triggered by energy bursts. Energy channels were calibrated to destabilize localized sections of the cavern ceiling, creating controlled rockfalls that would impede the construct's mobility. Mara supervised the coordination, ensuring that every colonist understood their role and the timing of each sequence. Aric moved among them, providing guidance, reinforcing positions, and reminding them to maintain vigilance. The cavern hummed with tension, a living theater of light, shadow, and latent violence. When the constructs above detected the rearrangements, they responded cautiously. Small groups descended, probing the platforms, only to be funneled into preset choke points. The aquatic mass in the lake responded as well, sending waves that collided with the energy fields from the grav crates, creating chaotic water turbulence that disrupted their coordinated movements. Aric's plan began to unfold exactly as intended, but he remained acutely aware that the alien intelligence would quickly adapt if given the opportunity. Every sequence, every trap, was designed not to destroy, but to delay and manipulate the constructs, buying precious minutes for the fleet to arrive. Suddenly, a sharp, resonant hum vibrated through the stone floor, stronger than any previous pulse. The constructs froze, their movements synchronized as though receiving direct orders from the alien vessel above. Aric signaled the colonists to maintain position. Mara whispered, "It's coordinating them now. They have recognized the diversion." Aric's mind raced. The pulse was more than a warning, it was a probe, scanning human reactions, testing reflexes, and calculating optimal strategies. He understood that the window of advantage was narrowing rapidly. "Execute the secondary measures," he ordered, voice steady. "Trigger the crystal collapses and channel water flows. Delay them, do not engage beyond necessary. The fleet is our reinforcement." The cavern erupted in controlled chaos. Crystals shattered and fell, channels of water surged, and energy pulses from the grav crates sparked into arcs that struck the humanoid constructs. The alien forms adapted partially, but the environmental manipulation forced them into predictable patterns, allowing the humans to maintain defensive advantage. The aquatic mass surged again, sending a massive wave toward the platforms, but the combination of energy barriers and redirected water flows contained it. Sparks, debris, and glowing fragments filled the chamber, creating a dynamic battlefield where human ingenuity clashed with alien intelligence. Minutes felt like hours. Each pulse, each movement, Each calculated action tested every colonist's resolve. The constructs regrouped, moving with adaptive precision, but the humans maintained coordinated defense. Aric monitored the chamber with unyielding focus, noting patterns, anticipating behavior, and adjusting human positioning in real time. Mara's efficiency ensured that communication and movement remained fluid. Soren's stabilization of the core allowed continuous contact with orbiting fleet forces, ensuring that supplemental energy pulses would arrive at precisely the right moment. The synergy between human strategy, coordination, and technological improvisation created a fragile yet potent balance against the alien threat. Finally, the first signs of orbital support manifested. A deep pulse of energy from fleet vessels resonated through the cavern, momentarily disrupting the construct's coordination. The humanoid forms staggered, their synchronized movement breaking into chaotic patterns. The aquatic mass recoiled, waves splashing erratically. Aric seized the opportunity. "Push forward," he commanded. Human fire intensified, targeting the pulsating veins of the constructs, exploiting their temporary disorientation. Mara coordinated counterattacks and defensive maneuvers, guiding colonists with precision. The chamber became a maelstrom of light, energy, and controlled destruction, every movement a statement of human ingenuity and relentless resolve. Aric knew the battle was far from over, but for the first time, the humans had shifted from reactive survival to strategic action. The alien intelligence above and below had been challenged, delayed, and forced into recalculating its approach. The colonists, despite exhaustion and fear, demonstrated the hallmark of their species: adaptability, courage, and an unyielding refusal to surrender. And in that moment, as the cavern shook with the interplay of forces, Aric Sonberin felt a spark of certainty: humanity would endure. Whatever the alien vessel sought beneath the ridge, it would find resistance, it would find defiance, and it would learn, as all others had, that humanity did not yield. The subterranean cavern pulsed with residual energy from the orbital strike, sending faint tremors through the stone floor and scattering shards of luminescent crystal across the platforms and walkways. Aric Sonberin remained at the forefront, his plasma stave raised as he scanned the chamber for any sign of returning threats. The constructs, previously synchronized and deliberate, had been momentarily disrupted by the coordinated human attack and the supplemental pulse from the fleet. They recoiled and regrouped, their movements now more erratic, as if attempting to reassess the parameters of human capability. Mara Verrick stayed close to Aric, her rifle sweeping across the cavern in measured arcs, directing colonists to positions of tactical advantage while continuously monitoring the lake and overhead scaffolding for subtle disturbances. The colonists, though weary and strained, were focused and efficient, following instructions with precision born of desperation and instinct. Despite the temporary advantage, Aric knew that the alien vessel above had not committed fully. Its scouts and constructs had been cautious, adaptive, and intelligent, demonstrating a level of awareness that far surpassed anything humanity had previously encountered. The aquatic mass in the lake had receded slightly, but the water's surface betrayed its continued presence, rippling in faint, deliberate patterns. "It's regrouping," Aric muttered, voice low, almost to himself. Mara nodded. "And it's analyzing every move we've made. Every delay, every counter, every shot. We have bought time, but not freedom, not yet." The colonists began to restore the defensive structures, replacing shattered crystal supports and repositioning grav crates to reinforce barricades. Soren Kalin worked frantically at the communications core, stabilizing energy flows and monitoring the transmission back to the fleet. "They are still within range of the energy pulse," he reported, voice strained. "If the vessel decides to recalibrate its response, our signal may attract additional attention. Reinforcements may arrive, but we could trigger escalation in the meantime." Aric's gaze swept the cavern, noting the tactical vulnerabilities. Then we prepare for escalation. We cannot rely on relief alone. We must anticipate it and be ready to adapt instantly. The first sign of renewed aggression came as a low hum reverberated through the stone, a vibration felt rather than heard, resonating with the natural frequency of the cavern. The constructs above the lake began to move in a coordinated pattern, their glowing veins pulsing in rapid sequences that mirrored the vibrations. The aquatic mass beneath the surface shifted in response, sending a wave of energy through the water that rippled across the cavern floor. Aric signaled the colonists to brace for movement. "Form defensive quadrants," he shouted. "Concentrate fire on the glowing veins and stabilize the platforms. Keep the constructs at a distance." The humanoid constructs above the platforms descended with remarkable speed, leaping from scaffolding and colliding with barricades. Their claws tore into reinforced metal, leaving deep grooves and sparks in their wake. The human defensive fire was precise, targeting pulsating veins and jointed limbs, disrupting movement but not completely incapacitating them. One of the larger constructs, its surface reflecting pale light from the crystals, struck a grav crate, sending it spinning into the shallow lake. Water splashed violently, flooding part of the lower platform, causing several colonists to lose footing. Aric lunged forward, stabilizing one of the colonists before directing concentrated energy bursts at the attacking construct. Mara followed, coordinating additional fire from the adjacent platform and shouting orders to maintain defensive lines. Simultaneously, the aquatic mass surged upward with terrifying speed, creating waves that threatened to overwhelm the remaining human positions. The coordinated energy shields from grav crates mitigated much of the force, but the sheer magnitude of the movement displaced equipment and scattered debris. Aric recognized the pattern. The mass was attempting to destabilize the environment to reduce human coordination and force errors. He gestured to Mara. "Lead a counterflow. Use the channels we've prepared to redirect the energy." She nodded and activated 2 energy conduits, channeling the water surge into a controlled path that caused it to flow harmlessly along the cavern walls. The maneuver worked, buying the humans crucial seconds to reorganize and continue targeted counterattacks. The constructs above adapted quickly. One of the humanoid forms, previously staggered by the environmental manipulation, adjusted its trajectory and leaped directly toward the platform's edge, attempting to breach the human position. Aric intercepted it with his plasma stave, absorbing the impact and redirecting kinetic force into the scaffolding. Sparks and small fragments of rock flew into the air as the construct tumbled backward, emitting a series of shrill, resonant clicks that echoed through the chamber. Mara fired a concentrated blast at the glowing veins along the construct's limbs, causing it to convulse before retreating to regroup with its companions. The colonists, inspired by the coordinated response, unleashed a volley of fire, targeting additional constructs and the aquatic mass, exploiting the temporary chaos to maintain control of the environment. Soren monitored the communications core, ensuring the narrowband transmission remained uninterrupted. "Fleet reinforcements are en route," he reported. "Estimated arrival in 22 minutes. Maintain defensive positions and hold the chamber until then. Any breach could compromise the entire operation." Aric's eyes narrowed. "Then we hold. Every second counts. No one falls back unless absolutely necessary. The vessel above has not fully revealed its strategy, and we cannot afford to underestimate it." The next wave of aggression was more sophisticated. The humanoid constructs coordinated strikes, using the chamber's verticality to approach from multiple angles simultaneously. The aquatic mass shifted position, creating counterwaves that intersected unpredictably with the human energy barriers. Aric's experience in frontier combat guided his decisions. "Divide the attacks," he shouted. "Draw some into the choke points, focus others on the lake, use environmental hazards to separate them." Mara relayed the commands to the colonists, ensuring precision and timing. Grav crates were detonated in controlled sequences, creating temporary barriers and triggering collapses in targeted crystal formations. The constructs adapted partially but were forced into constrained patterns by human manipulation of the cavern. Amid the chaos, Aric noticed an anomaly, a faint distortion in the air above the lake that did not match the construct's usual behavior. He raised the plasma stave and focused on the disturbance. "Mara," he called, "there is something else, possibly a higher-order command node. Concentrate fire on any new energy signatures and prepare for adaptive responses." Mara adjusted her aim and fired, the beam striking the distorted area and revealing a semi-transparent formation hovering above the water, resembling a smaller version of the alien vessel itself. Its glowing veins pulsed with rapid sequences, directing the constructs and coordinating the aquatic mass. The humans realized, with a surge of apprehension, that they were not merely fighting individual constructs, but a distributed intelligence network capable of real-time adaptation and coordination. Jace Venril, positioned on an upper platform, shouted, "It's directing them. We can disrupt the patterns if we target that node." Aric nodded, formulating a strategy. "Concentrate fire from multiple angles. Mara, coordinate a simultaneous barrage. Focus on the veins and joints. This is our opportunity to destabilize their network." The colonists, despite exhaustion, executed the plan with precision. Beams of energy struck the semi-transparent formation, causing ripples of light and vibration to cascade through the constructs below. The humanoid forms staggered, their movements disrupted, and the aquatic mass recoiled, creating additional openings for human repositioning. The battle reached a critical juncture. Aric directed the colonists to intensify fire, exploiting the temporary vulnerability of the command node. Sparks and arcs of energy illuminated the cavern, creating a dynamic interplay of light and shadow. The constructs adapted partially, but the humans' coordinated assault maintained momentum. The aquatic mass surged again, but Aric anticipated the movement, activating additional energy barriers and channeling water flows through prepared conduits. Mara adjusted defensive positions, directing colonists to reinforce critical points. The chamber became a complex battlefield where human ingenuity, strategy, and adaptability countered alien intelligence, resilience, and aggression. Soren Kalin monitored the communications core, confirming that the fleet's orbital energy pulses were synchronized with the humans' assault. "Supplemental support is active," he reported. "Energy fields are interfering with the construct's coordination. Maintain offensive and defensive balance until reinforcements arrive." Aric's eyes remained fixed on the semi-transparent command node. "We continue. Every second we hold disrupts their network and forces adaptation. Do not relent. Humanity survives because we endure, and we endure because we act decisively." As the orbital pulse intersected with the humans' concentrated fire, the constructs faltered significantly. The humanoid forms above were thrown into disarray, their coordination disrupted, and the aquatic mass beneath the lake partially retreated. Energy rippled through the chamber, illuminating the cavern in a dazzling array of light and reflections. The colonists, inspired by the temporary advantage, pressed the assault, targeting the veins and joints with precision. Sparks and arcs of energy danced across the platforms and water, creating a chaotic but controlled environment that highlighted the humans' strategic ingenuity and resilience. Aric recognized the turning point. "Push forward, focus fire on the node, and maintain defensive lines." The colonists responded immediately, coordinating attacks across multiple levels of the cavern. The humanoid constructs struggled to regroup, their movements now reactive rather than proactive. The aquatic mass surged once more, but was countered by human-controlled energy barriers and water channels. The chamber became a theater of light, sound, and calculated chaos, where human determination and adaptability confronted alien intelligence in a battle of strategy, endurance, and raw willpower. Minutes stretched into hours, yet the humans held. The semi-transparent command node flickered under sustained attack, and the construct's coordination remained fractured. The aquatic mass, sensing vulnerability, began a cautious withdrawal beneath the lake's surface. Aric Sonberin lowered his plasma stave slightly, eyes scanning the chamber, aware that victory was temporary but meaningful. Humanity had demonstrated resilience, coordination, and ingenuity against a superior and adaptive intelligence. The colonists, though exhausted and battered, remained focused, their actions a testament to the enduring spirit of their species. Verrick approached, her rifle lowered but ready. "We have bought time," she said. "The node is weakened, the constructs are disoriented, and the aquatic mass is partially contained. Reinforcements will arrive soon. We survive, but the threat remains." Aric nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. The battle was not over, but the humans had proven their ability to adapt, endure, and respond decisively under extreme conditions. "Prepare for the next wave," he said. "Maintain defensive positions, reinforce barricades, and remain vigilant. Humanity endures not because the odds favor us, but because we refuse to yield." The cavern, illuminated by the fading energy pulses and residual reflections from shattered crystals, settled into a tense calm. The constructs remained present, but cautious, aware of human capabilities. The aquatic mass lingered beneath the lake, its movements measured and deliberate. The humans, though exhausted, had established a fragile dominance, demonstrating that adaptability, strategy, and coordinated action could confront even the most sophisticated alien intelligence. And as Aric surveyed the chamber, he understood a fundamental truth. The alien vessel above and its networked constructs would continue to challenge them, but humanity's resolve, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit would remain their greatest advantage. The battle beneath the ridge was far from over, but for the first time, the humans had seized the initiative. The cavern was suffused with a tense stillness, a silence heavy with the unspoken understanding that the battle beneath the ridge was not yet concluded. Aric Sonberin moved among the colonists with deliberate care, inspecting barricades, checking grav crates, and ensuring that energy fields remained stable. The semi-transparent command node of the alien vessel had been weakened by concentrated human fire and coordinated orbital pulses, yet its presence still radiated a palpable tension through the chamber. The humanoid constructs, though staggered and partially disoriented, lingered above the lake and along the scaffolding, their luminous veins pulsing with intermittent rhythm, testing human endurance, assessing the limits of their tactical maneuvers, and continuously recalibrating strategies. Verrick moved beside Aric, her rifle ready, eyes scanning the cavern ceiling and the rippling water for the faintest disturbance. Each colonist was tense, aware that even a minor lapse could unravel hours of hard-won advantage. The fleet's reinforcements were approaching, but their arrival was not instantaneous. Soren Kalin monitored the communications core with fevered attention, stabilizing the narrowband uplink and maintaining orbital synchronization. "They are within the response window," he reported, voice tight with both urgency and anticipation. "Reinforcements will arrive in 14 minutes. We must maintain the defensive perimeter until then. Any breach could be catastrophic." Aric nodded, scanning the cavern. "We survive because we endure, but endurance requires action. Everyone remains in position. Do not leave a single vantage point unguarded. We hold and we fight until the fleet intervenes." The first significant signal of renewed aggression came as a low-frequency vibration through the stone, subtle yet unmistakable. The aquatic mass beneath the lake shifted with deliberate force, creating waves that lapped against the lower platforms with renewed intensity. Simultaneously, The humanoid constructs above adjusted their positions, moving with renewed coordination despite the recent disarray. Aric recognized the pattern. The alien vessel was compensating for its losses, integrating environmental data and human behavior to adapt its attack strategy. He gestured to Mara. They are recalibrating. Adjust our firing arcs and reposition mobile units. Anticipate coordinated strikes rather than isolated attacks. Mara nodded sharply and relayed orders to the colonists, ensuring rapid redeployment to optimal defensive locations. As the tension escalated, the semi-transparent command node pulsed with rapid light sequences, signaling directives to the subordinate constructs and the aquatic mass. Aric noted the synchronization between the airborne and aquatic elements. Pulses from the node coincided with measured waves and leaps, suggesting a networked intelligence linking every active unit. He realized with chilling clarity that attacking any single construct without regard to the node's influence would be insufficient. They would need to disrupt the command node's coordination to create an effective defensive advantage. Focus fire on the node, he shouted. Coordinate attacks across all levels. Every beam, every discharge, every energy pulse must target the command network. The colonists, despite fatigue and fear, responded with precision. Energy beams converged on the node from multiple platforms, striking the pulsating veins and destabilizing its structure. The humanoid constructs above were thrown into temporary disarray, their synchronization fractured, while the aquatic mass beneath the lake shifted unpredictably, forced to compensate for the node's destabilization. Sparks and arcs of energy filled the chamber as grav crates, crystal shards, and energy barriers interacted with the alien forms, creating a dynamic battlefield where human ingenuity and adaptability challenged an intelligence designed for dominance. Each pulse, each displacement, each calculated adjustment reinforced Aric's understanding. Survival depended not merely on firepower, but on anticipation, coordination, and rapid adaptation. Soren monitored the communications core and relayed critical updates to the fleet. Orbital support is synchronized with our assault. Energy pulses will target the command node intermittently, further disrupting its coordination. Aric issued rapid-fire orders, positioning colonists to exploit momentary vulnerabilities. The humanoid constructs attempted to regroup, launching renewed attacks from the scaffolding, but human positioning, barricades, and controlled environmental hazards limited their effectiveness. The aquatic mass surged, sending waves to unbalanced platforms, yet the channeled conduits and energy shields mitigated its potential impact. Mara, maintaining tactical oversight, redirected colonists to reinforce compromised areas, ensuring that the assault remained balanced across multiple fronts. Minutes passed, each one a crucible of coordination and calculated risk. The command node, subjected to sustained energy assault and orbital interference, flickered violently. Its influence over the humanoid constructs wavered, and their movements became increasingly erratic. The aquatic mass, sensing the node's vulnerability, hesitated in its assaults, creating openings for human repositioning and counterattacks. Aric, observing the pattern, seized the moment. Push forward, he commanded. Maintain defensive integrity, but exploit every opening. Focus fire on the veins and joints of the constructs. Every shot counts. The humans' coordinated assault intensified. Jace Venril, previously pale and hesitant, demonstrated precision in targeting the veins of a humanoid construct attempting to breach the platform's edge. Another colonist activated a sequence of grav crates, triggering controlled energy discharges that destabilized the scaffolding beneath an attacking pair of constructs. Sparks, debris, and arcs of energy cascaded across the chamber, illuminating the cavern in a chaotic display of light and shadow. The semi-transparent command node flickered more intensely, its networked signals momentarily disrupted, causing confusion and staggered reactions among the constructs and the aquatic mass. The humans, executing their maneuvers with discipline and ingenuity, maintained pressure while avoiding overexposure to counterattacks. Then, the first signs of decisive change appeared. The humanoid constructs, synchronization broke down almost completely, their coordinated strikes became disjointed, their attempts at adaptive response slowed by the sustained assault. The aquatic mass, sensing the node's instability, retreated partially beneath the lake, its movements no longer directly influencing human positions. Sparks erupted as multiple energy discharges struck critical points along its form, forcing it into temporary dormancy. Aric's gaze swept the chamber, noting the opening for a final coordinated strike. "Concentrate all fire on the node," he shouted. "Every energy beam, every plasma discharge, focus it now." The colonists responded with unified precision. Energy streams from multiple platforms converged on the semi-transparent command node, striking with coordinated timing designed to maximize disruption. The node pulsated violently, emitting a high-frequency resonance that vibrated through the cavern, creating a sensory onslaught felt more than heard. The humanoid constructs recoiled, staggered, and disoriented, while the aquatic mass beneath the lake quivered as if anticipating the node's collapse. Aric adjusted his position, delivering additional plasma bursts to maintain pressure and prevent any attempts at recovery. Mara coordinated reinforcements across platforms, ensuring that no section of the defensive perimeter was left vulnerable. As the sustained assault continued, the semi-transparent command node flickered and fractured. Veins of glowing energy shattered under the combined human onslaught and orbital interference, sending cascading pulses of light that illuminated every corner of the cavern. The humanoid constructs above faltered completely, their coordination lost, leaving them vulnerable to concentrated fire from multiple colonists. The aquatic mass, no longer guided by the node, retreated entirely beneath the lake's surface, creating a momentary calm. Aric seized the opportunity. "Push forward, no mercy, no hesitation. Finish this." The colonists unleashed a final synchronized barrage, striking the remaining active constructs and ensuring that every networked element of the alien intelligence within the cavern was incapacitated. The chamber erupted in a final sequence of sparks, arcs of energy, and cascading debris as the command node collapsed. Its semi-transparent form fragmented into hundreds of unstable shards, each dissipating into the surrounding environment. The humanoid constructs, no longer coordinated, fell back against barricades and scaffolding, their movements spasmodic and uncoordinated. The aquatic mass remained submerged, motionless, its veins dimmed and faintly flickering. For the first time since the confrontation began, the humans held unchallenged dominion over the cavern. Exhausted breaths, strained muscles, and adrenaline-fueled minds marked the colonists' victory, yet Aric maintained his vigilance, knowing that the alien vessel above remained a looming presence. Soren Kalin confirmed with relief, "The communication channel is stable. Fleet reinforcements are arriving on schedule. The node's collapse has disrupted the vessel's local network, but sustained orbital support will ensure it cannot recover quickly." Mara lowered her rifle slightly but remained alert. "The immediate threat is neutralized," she said, "but the vessel above is still intelligent. We cannot underestimate its response once it detects the loss of control over the constructs." Aric nodded, his gaze sweeping the cavern. The colonists had survived, but the victory was tactical, not strategic. The alien presence above remained, adaptive and patient, observing the ridge with calculated intent. Humanity had endured, yet the war beneath and beyond the ridge was far from concluded. As the fleet's reinforcements entered orbit, energy pulses stabilized the cavern further, reinforcing human-controlled platforms and suppressing residual activity from the constructs. Aric Sonberin and Mara Verrick moved among the colonists, coordinating immediate repairs, redistributing resources, and ensuring readiness for potential counterattacks. The semi-transparent command node, now shattered, served as a stark reminder of the alien intelligence's networked complexity and adaptability. Every colonist understood the fragile balance they had maintained: survival through strategy, coordination, and unwavering determination. Jace Venril, still catching his breath, whispered, "We did it, we actually did it." Aric met his gaze with firm resolve. "We endured because we acted decisively as one. That is what separates humanity from every intelligence that underestimates us. This ridge remains ours not because it was given, but because we took it and defended it without hesitation." The cavern gradually quieted as the colonists stabilized the environment, and the orbital fleet presence provided a buffer against immediate threats. The humanoid constructs remained inactive, partially submerged, and the aquatic mass retreated into the depths, its glowing veins dimmed to near invisibility. Aric and Mara surveyed the scene, noting the adjustments necessary to maintain long-term defensive readiness. The shattered command node and the disrupted constructs symbolized the humans' capacity for resilience, ingenuity, and tactical coordination in the face of a superior, adaptive intelligence. The victory, though hard-won, proved a critical lesson. Humanity could endure, adapt, and prevail even against forces that exceeded conventional understanding. As Aric stood at the edge of the platform, looking over the subdued lake and the scattered remains of alien constructs, he felt the gravity of the moment. The colonists had survived an unprecedented assault, maintained cohesion under extreme stress, and leveraged both environmental manipulation and strategic ingenuity to counter an intelligence designed for dominance. Mara joined him, her rifle lowered, her eyes reflecting both fatigue and unwavering determination. "We have survived," she said quietly, "but the alien vessel will continue to watch. It will adapt, and it will return. Our challenge is not over." Aric nodded, resolve hardening. "Then we prepare. Humanity endures, Mara, not because it is easy, not because the odds favor us, but because we refuse to yield. And whatever comes next, we will meet it head-on." The cavern settled into a tenuous calm, illuminated by the faint glow of residual crystal light and the stabilizing presence of orbital fleet energy. The colonists moved among the platforms, repairing damage, reinforcing barricades, and preparing for the eventual next wave. The semi-transparent command node, reduced to scattered remnants, floated inertly in the water, a testament to both alien ingenuity and human perseverance. Above the ridge, the alien vessel pulsed faintly, observing, calculating, but unable to immediately assert control over the cavern below. Humanity had endured its most immediate challenge beneath the ridge. The colonists, though exhausted and battle-worn, had proven that strategy, coordination, and unyielding resolve could confront even the most adaptive intelligence. Aric Sonberin, standing at the edge of the platform, felt a moment of quiet pride tempered by the awareness of the larger war yet to come. Humanity had not merely survived, it had endured, adapted, and proven that it would never yield.